Good evening, everybody. It is right on time for the start, and I want to thank the lovely Bev for the pregame show. I just so appreciate her building the energy. I'm sitting back here and I can feel the energy building, the excitement building, and it's just going to be an awesome 2 hours together. You know, I don't know about the rest of you, but anybody that's not watching this live, I need to let you know we're going through the coronavirus thing worldwide right now. And I just think we're all just craving social interaction. And so a lot of people have turned to video conferencing for meeting with family and friends. And this is something that we've been doing every month for over 2 years now. And I don't know about the rest of you, but it's one of the highlights of my month, because it's a love fest. It really is. And the only problem with doing it at this time on the East Coast, I know Bev will agree with me, when we're done, we're just high and it's really hard to go to bed. So it usually takes us a good hour or more to come back down. In fact, if you can't feel it already, I'm already there, just feeling all of you coming in and knowing that this is a time when we as kindred spirits get to gather together and share that energy. So it's so funny. My friend Brenda Baker passed to the spirit world 2 years ago this week. And just about any time I sit down to do classes, to do these mentoring, she's right here. And for those of you that don't know, she drops in from spirit, and her way of giving me evidence is to tell me something going on with our mutual friend, Lynette. So just a few minutes ago, I'm sitting here listening to Bev. Welcome, everybody. And here's Brenda. And I text Lynette and I said, why is she going chugga, chugga, chugga like a train? And she's also singing the Love Train song in my mind. I said, I can tell this is a double meaning here, because this is like the Love Train gathering tonight. And Lynette wrote back, spy, because Brenda knows that Lynette was just looking at train schedules last night and discussing train trips today with her sister. So just beautiful evidence right off the bat that there is a spirit world, that our loved ones are as close as our thoughts. And Brenda says right now she wouldn't miss this evening as well for anything. So just think about it, your own loved ones who are always close in your heart and in your mind. The moment you think about them right now, who's to say they didn't pull up a chair or climb onto the bed right beside you right now to enjoy with us. So we're going to be talking this evening about ways to connect with them, our loved ones who have passed, others' loved ones who have passed, because always in these sessions I discuss mediumship and ways to connect. But this, as many of you know, is not just about mediumship, and it's not just for mediums. I've found that the best way to increase our connection across the veil is to come to a greater understanding of who and what we are. The way that we do that is by asking the deeper questions and asking spirit for guidance. I do that daily and have such a wonderful connection with my team. Thank you, Sanaya, and thank you, Spirit, that they give me new insights to share with all of you every month. So I don't like to talk about it like teaching, rather sharing, because I'm a work in progress too. And they often use me as their example of how not to do things. But the latest sharing is pretty cool. So we will be going over quite a few things that I put out in an email tonight, and many other things, including sharing some of the magic from across the veil. I already shared Brenda's piece right there. Let's see. For those of you who don't get the emails or didn't notice it, our Daily Way email that goes out has been going out for years now, over 10,000? No, 10 years of Daily Way messages. Yeah, almost 4,000 of the daily messages. We've just changed the format, and I say we, but really Bev is the mastermind behind it, and a new system of sending out, not without its growing pains, but I just love the new look. And the fact that the last 2 days did not have a beautiful picture with them has nothing to do with Bev. It's operator error. So hopefully we'll get that going again. But if you are interested in those daily messages, just go to my website or dailyway.org and you can sign up to get it in your inbox every day. So just everybody send a big wave of thanks to Bev, because She worked all week, like 10 hours a day, to figure out how to do that. And she's like a terrier with a bone in her mouth, not going to let go until she gets it right. So she's a blessing, a real blessing. For those of you who've taken my Shift Network course, good news, we just set a date. We're going to have a new course on mediumship, deeper into the metaphysics, and it's going to start 11/11. So not until November, but I love that date and gives me plenty of time to put into order all the insights that Spirit's been giving me to share with all of you. But in the meantime, we'll be meeting here every month like we always do. So let's see. So tonight, sharing the things I promised, sharing some magic from the spirit world. Here's all the notes from just 1 month of downloads from my guides. Poor Ty, as I go writing things in the middle of the night. But also I will pause every so often for some Q&A, and I apologize if I don't get to all of your questions. But I'd like to start with an invocation like we do all the time. Maybe that'll help me calm down a little bit. I feel like I'm talking 100 miles an hour. It's the energy. But what's so cool is we're hundreds of us joining from around the world with the same goal in mind, to raise our vibration, to bask in the love, to learn more about who we are and connect here and across the veil better. So let's just celebrate that single-minded purpose here and close our eyes for a moment, shut out any distractions. Take a nice cleansing breath, exhale longer than you inhale, and release anything that doesn't serve you. And an awareness that all is, this awareness itself, which we're coming to understand, is right here. It's who we are. We are this awareness that we've always been, with layers of story on top of it. As we sit together today, basking in this energy of connection, which is love, may we peel off more layers of that onion that are keeping us from knowing exactly who and what we are. May each of us hear what we need to hear this evening. May we feel the love from each other. May we send our love to each other and out into the world so that we can be the change agents for those who are suffering. Those of us who are challenged this evening by physical challenges, emotional challenges, any human challenges at all, may you learn new ways of dealing with that from the point of view of spirit, which is what we are. We're just so grateful to be called here this evening for this gathering. And so it is. All right. I just want to end that with one little message that I see across my room every time I sit to do a reading. Yes. I love this message. It is so wonderful to come to know that by sitting in meditation, setting the story aside, and realizing that the love we seek has always been right here. So I talk about sharing the magic, and magic does not mean deception or tricks. The magic is the wonder of realizing there is a spirit world. And I love to share those wondrous moments from my readings. I don't have too many of them tonight because there's so much more teaching, but just one of them, I believe I already shared this on my radio show this week, but gave a reading for a woman whose father came in from the spirit world, and he came in speaking Spanish to me, which surprised me because those who speak a foreign language, it doesn't matter because they're speaking telepathically with the medium. The medium doesn't have to speak their language. You hear it in your own language, whatever that is. But because I speak fluent Spanish, I guess the guy just wanted to have fun with me because it was actually coming through in Spanish. And one of the pieces of evidence that those across the veil almost always give me, without me even asking, is what kind of work they did. And this gentleman, her dad, showed me a briefcase, and I started reporting this to his daughter, and I said, he's showing me a briefcase, and he's going through the papers, and I could tell he was about to tell me what he did. I thought he was a businessman, and he shouted in my ear, abogado, which means lawyer. And I said, he either just had to see a lawyer. No, he is a lawyer. And she said, he's a lawyer. And it just blew me away, just blew me away to have him say it that clearly in Spanish. And then later on, I said, your dad's holding out his hand and he's showing me a stone in the hand. And this is a heart-shaped stone. And on camera, just like I'm looking on camera right now, my sitter raises up her hand and shows me this rose quartz heart stone. And it's one of those things where, you know, I probably should be cool, but instead I'm going, oh my God, you know, because it never fails to awe me that here's Dad sitting there with that view of his daughter that I certainly don't have, because she has her hands off camera, but he sees it, and our loved ones see what we're doing, and that comes through in every reading. If you are a medium, please talk to your guides and say, look, whenever you get a spirit ready to talk to me, make sure they tell me something going on in their loved one's life now, because it's life-changing to realize not only are they not gone forever, but they're still part of our lives. That is so reassuring, and they will comply because they want us to know these things. So how are these connections possible? I have to tell you that since right around January 1st, my daily meditations have shifted from speaking to Sanaya every day to taking it a level higher. Basically, Spirit itself, this started last year at our Unity Village retreat, but Spirit said, let's stop dividing myself, just talk to me directly, kind of like Neil Donald Walsh in his conversations with God, but Source said, call me Joy. So I call them my morning conversations with Joy. So I have stated before what the channeler Paul Selig once said, your guides are who you become when you realize who you are. Now, what does that mean? Picture a lightning bolt, one source of light that divides itself into arcs, right? Fingers, lightning bolt. But each of those is of the same light. So your guides would be aspects of that same light, kind of at the middle level. And then it just keeps going farther down, and that would be us down here, but we're all the same light. So when you realize that we're the same source, you can talk to your guides, but it's kind of like you're talking to yourself. If I am the light, and so why couldn't we ultimately talk to the light itself? So I've been having these conversations with deep questions like, well, if this is Joy I'm talking to, then why are you talking to me? And we get these answers like, well, you know, who else am I going to talk to if I don't create you to have a conversation with? And it's been absolutely fascinating. But the reason then that these interactions across the veil are possible is because our loved ones who pass, you and I, are joy in expression, the light having adventures in experience here in this earthly realm. So we are all connected because we all arise from and as this field of light. That's the ultimate teaching, but it's very challenging for us at the human level, so focused for decades on being this body and this mind, this person with a name. What's on your name tag? You know, that's who I am. That's who I identify with. It's so hard after years of that conditioning to really get in our minds, I am this, and what does that mean for me? And to see each other as joy in a costume. So all of the teaching leads back to that, and that's what I call the awakened way. And every lesson that we'll share tonight and every month just peels back the layers that are hiding us, keeping us from realizing total joy. And it is joyous to come to know that. It doesn't mean we don't suffer, but even in the midst of suffering, there's an underlying awareness. That's our true nature, that joy. That's what all of us ultimately want, isn't it? True peace, lasting peace, happiness, and love. And that is absolutely the result of connecting with this source. So knowing that death is not the end, we then can celebrate the silver linings that result from what we think is the worst possible tragedy. I know when my Susan, my stepdaughter, passed in 2006, that's what started me on this path. You think, how can anything ever be good again? How can anything good come of this? And yet I look around now and see the thousands of people who have been helped from the spiritual path that unfolded from her passing for me. And this Thursday on my radio show, my guest is Deborah Martin, who's a healer, and we're going to talk about her journey through cancer last year. The silver lining for her from cancer is understanding that even healers get sick, and that she was completely cured of her cancer. And I had some questions that I took into meditation this morning. Well, why are some people healed and some are not? Because I know that some people listening to that program will have loved ones who passed from cancer, and they say, well, why was she healed and why were others not? It's because there's great purpose in every experience that happens to us. And that Brenda, who passed from cancer, my friend, is right here, right now. She showed that to us already. And yes, we're selfish. We humans want her right here in physical form. But we're having such joyous encounters with Brenda. And Brenda is more joyful and free than ever. And so that's the silver lining, to come to that understanding. So many parents of children who have passed, I see in readings, their loved ones, the kids, tell me they've started a foundation or a scholarship in my honor. And that's a silver lining. The ripple effects go out to others. And I want to tell you that I am absolutely so grateful that because of this work with Susan, we've been able to give scholarships over the years in Susan's name for people that couldn't otherwise go to college. And we just got word that one young woman who we put through a whole year of her program in Costa Rica just finished. We heard for a while that because of economic situations, she might not be able to graduate after all her effort. And she completed it. And she is the very first person in her entire town to get a college degree. They didn't even have electricity in the town until 10 years ago. So that's a silver lining. And I am beyond thrilled that for the first time, thanks to so many of you joining me on this path and joining me tonight, that just tonight, all of us, thanks to you, can give an entire scholarship just from tonight. So it just makes my heart sing, and it's beautiful. And it also shows how there is always more than one way to look at things. Because I did have somebody send me an email that says, you know, so-and-so does 2-hour webinars for free. And I said, yep, that's nice. And I never defend anything, but if I did do this for free, then we couldn't get the scholarship. So again, we don't always have the whole view. But this leads me back to my disco ball analogy. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this light that is our source, picture it like a disco ball. In the case of humanity, this light goes out, becomes you and me having experiences. This light would have 7 billion lenses on it, this disco ball, little lights. And every single one would be tilted at a slightly different angle. So of course, we're not all going to see the same, are we? Especially for somebody whose lens is completely opposite ours on the other side of the disco ball. We might see a little bit like the ones near us in our field of vision, but we can't even understand others unless we turn around from looking outward and look inward. When we all come back into the center, that's where we find the oneness. So this disco ball analogy is a perfect time to share with you, before we get to the main teaching, a little Facebook post that my friend Candace Blair posted and shared. And I had to print it out because I wanted people who don't even go on Facebook to hear this. It's just so beautiful and shows how we often get so caught up in our lens on the world. And so it's an example using coronavirus and what's going on with us now, but you can see as I read through this list how it applies to just about everything when in our world when we all do things differently. So it's an unknown author. Candace didn't know who wrote it, but it goes like this. Some people don't agree with the state opening restaurants, opening everything. That's okay. Be kind. Some people are still planning to stay home. That's okay. Be kind. Some are still scared of getting the virus and a second wave happening. That's okay. Be kind. Some are sighing with relief to go back to work, knowing they may not lose their business or their homes. That's okay. Be kind. Some will wear masks for weeks. That's okay. Be kind. Some people will rush out to get the hair or nails done. That's okay. Be kind. The point is, everyone has different viewpoints, feelings, and that's okay. Be kind. We each have a different story. If you need to stay home, but be kind. If you need to go out, just respect others and be kind. I think we caught on to this here, but it's so eye-opening because, you know, you might laugh at somebody for something they're doing. Oh, look at those people over there. They're like this, they're like that. And ultimately, unless we put ourselves in their shoes, it's hard to find that kindness. So I just thought that was beautiful. All righty. One final magical moment, then we'll move on to the teaching. I have a woman in my community back in Florida sent me an email. She says that she was disappointed in not having heard from her husband after he passed, and it's been 3.5 years, not a single sign from him. I will tell you that she had a reading with me and he came through, so we know he's okay, but she was saying, you know, George, why aren't you sending me any signs? And the other morning at 5:30 in the morning, suddenly her TV music channel came on in the living room all by itself. If you read my book, Messages of Hope, my stepdaughter Susan did that to our hotel TV. Never knew that could happen. Didn't know it was a spirit thing, but it is. And she said she and her husband used to have that music channel on all day long, listening to easy music tunes. Well, she went out and tried to turn it off and had a really hard time turning it off. And she went back to bed, and I have goosebumps. She suddenly said, wait a minute, was that you, honey? But didn't sense him. He obviously wanted to get the message through, because the next day at 4:30 in the morning, it happened again. She got up, she went out, had a hard time turning it off, went back to bed, asking if it was him, and suddenly had a thought, wait a minute, I'm supposed to listen to the lyrics of that song. And she got up, went back. You're able to rewind and see what the song was. And sure enough, just as she thought, the lyrics were, I'll always be in love with you. I mean, wow. She said, I went back to bed and just lay there, naturally could not get back to sleep. So good one for her husband. And if we could all just celebrate how hard it must have been if it took him 3.5 years to figure out how to manipulate energy and electronics to do that. But that's a good one. So speaking of signs from loved ones, I'm a big proponent of encouraging you to ask for signs to validate decisions made, or if you feel a loved one, send me a sign if that was really you. If you get guidance from your guides, I often ask them, give me this specific sign. So I did that about 1.5 months ago with some interesting things that were happening in my life, some pretty heavy issues. And there were some new concepts that I was tossing around. And I said, if I'm supposed to believe this, give me a sign. Well, guess what? I didn't get the sign. So I balled up those notes, the pieces of paper, and threw them out. I trust signs that much. So I have a lot of people who often ask me, what if I don't get my sign? There's often a good reason for that. So I know that I trust signs so much that if it doesn't come into your awareness, nobody says it, you don't see it on the billboard or in the newspaper or on the TV, it just doesn't pop into your awareness, then perhaps there's a reason, okay? There's always, you know, things don't always go the way we think they should or are supposed to, and it's a beautiful way to validate that. So one of the things that I said we would talk about this evening is being aware of what you're sending out to the world, what we radiate. do you really make a difference? I've shared a story how in readings, and I teach this for sure, it's so important what your sitter, the client, the person you're doing the reading for, is radiating, because we make up one field in doing readings. So if your sitter is sitting here like this, arms crossed, frowning, that energy detracts from the higher vibration that we want to create. So we need to actually educate this person to say, you know, we need you to open your heart, send love and send gratitude into the field here to make it easier for those in the spirit world to make their presence known. They need that high vibration. They need our love and gratitude. Well, as evidence of what we radiate, you know, our people in our immediate awareness are often great teachers for us. And in my case, it's lately been our new puppy, Nellie. She's an amazing teacher for me, for patience, because it's been a long time since we've had a puppy, and oh my God, she's a pistol. She's a great little dog, but whew, she tests our patience a lot. And she's gotten in the habit of running away when we need to pick her up for whatever reason, to put her on the bed or to take her out if she won't follow us to the door. And it can get a little frustrating. And the other day, Ty was trying to pick her up, trying to hook her up to the leash because she really needed to go out. And she kept running away from him. He'd get close enough and she'd back away. And he was getting more and more frustrated. And all of a sudden I looked at Ty and it was clear as a bell what was going on. I said, Ty, look what you're radiating. And he was like this because he was so frustrated. 5 tries to pick up the dog and she kept running away, and he was only trying to help her. And he caught himself and he dropped the frown, changed his personality instantly. He just went, and the dog ran right up to him. It was stunning to see this. Drop the anger, dog approaches. And I've been doing the same thing over and over. If she won't come to me, even on the first try, I realize I must be somehow radiating something powerful that frightens her. And so I cross my hands over my heart and I radiate love, and I just say, you're safe. Let's do this or that. And she just relaxes and I pick her up. So dogs are very sensitive. Sometimes, well, they have to rely on instinct in the wild, right? So far more sensitive and empathic than humans are. But if a dog can feel that, they can feel things that many humans don't. So realize what you radiate. It's truly stunning. We often, well, I won't even go there, about propping up other people when they're angry and we get angry back at them. That just reinforces what they're sending out. So meet others' anger with love. And that is, you want to watch somebody do a 180 real fast. It's fascinating. So the fun thing is you get to play with that from now on, right? Experiment with this. Notice what you're giving out. Notice the reaction of people around you and shift it and see how that changes things. All right. Let's do a couple of Q&A, Bev, because I've been going already half an hour. My goodness. Just a couple because I have so much to cover.
Okay. The first one is anonymous, so I'll ask it. Because we have been reincarnating for some time, I hope that we are evolving. I believe we would like to return knowing more than when we left. Does Source gauge success by seeing our lights grow more brightly? Does the intensity grow?
Oh, that's absolutely a yes. They always say that the more loving we are, it changes our entire energy field. It's a brighter light. It changes color overall. We're going for pure white, which would be all of the chakras, all the colors in the rainbow together would create white. But they just see each of the hues related to each of the chakras getting brighter and brighter all together. I'm being cautioned here by the team to watch out for success, because they don't want you to judge yourself in terms of human success. The greatest success is that you love with all your heart and soul. So that is the test of success. Beautiful. And we can change that in an instant, can't we? Thanks for that question. And Bev, another one?
Okay. I'm just going to move on without the camera
Yeah,
because
that's probably
that takes so
easier.
much time.
Yeah.
Matthew asks, I read so many conflicting accounts about children on the other side. Some say they are there, and others say there is no space or time on the other side, so there is no age, therefore no children.
Huh.
Would you share insights on this?
Yes, and I'm trying to get Sanaya to speak through me and as I speak, kind of integrating it without going into deep channeling. But the information is that, of course, each soul is an emanation of source. So we must remember now, and I'm really going to go beyond what a lot of people teach. Every soul is joy and expression. Ultimately, there's one mind working through all of us. And depending on the advancement of the soul can choose to hold on to the story, the role that it played in this lifetime or not. And so if a child is enjoying being a child across the veil, it will know that it's still enacting a story, but it can hold on to that story and still being a child, or it may choose to advance in age. But because there is intelligence within the soul, as that child's loved ones pass to the spirit world, the soul can re-embody that child at the same age at which it passed, so that the family can celebrate the being as they know it. And then they can advance together with or without the story, with or without any form of a body. So spirit is so malleable, changeable, and always takes form for the experience and for the growth. So whatever serves that child, which is really a soul at that moment, and those other souls around it, is what is going to unfold in that moment. So for example, my Susan passed, she was 6 months pregnant. And when she came through in a reading, she came through with a little baby boy sucking his thumb, a toddler. If I had done the math, Susan's baby boy that she was going to have would not have been the age he showed up, but it was enough that the medium could say, there's a little baby boy here. And that's how we recognize who that soul was. But Susan, as she's shown me so many times since she passed, is joy. And Liam, her son, is joy. But they take on this Susan role and costume and personality. And Liam has his own little way of looking, so that we still know and love that being that joy became and still is. I hope that makes sense. All right, we'll do some more questions later. Let's just move on. I said I would talk about dealing with, quote, less than positive people and spirits. What that was a euphemism for people who radiate negative things. And in the spirit world, what many people refer to as evil spirits. I didn't even want to put it in writing because I don't want to give it power. There are very dense thought forms created by consciousness as a result of the fear within this reality, creates dense thought forms. Human beings do evil things because we don't realize who we are, and we're connected with this human body that sometimes malfunctions. Emotions and chemicals can cause human beings, the human side of our nature, to make less than loving choices and do acts which we call evil. So this perpetuates a belief in something that is an actual thing, like an evil, like evil itself, Sanaya says, when that is really just love turned on its head, if that makes sense. It's the farthest thing from love. So what I wanted to share with you about that subject tonight, without dragging things down here, is to understand, this is huge, all of us attract to ourselves exactly what our soul needs in this lifetime for its own growth. Okay, so if you are attracting, you may not think you're attracting it. Let's change that. If you are experiencing what you feel is a spirit or a person who makes you very uncomfortable, it's time to say, what is it in me that needs healing? Or what is it in me that is attracting this? And you may think, I would never attract that. But think about women who are in abusive relationships. What are they radiating? I don't love myself. Or they wouldn't still stay in that relationship. And we read a lot about women who are in abusive relationships. They get out of it, and then they go on and somehow end up with the same kind of person. So the advice, I had a dear friend who was in a relationship that wasn't abusive, but the person was not really kind to her. And I said, look, once you finally find the strength to disentangle yourself from this relationship, because she was the one that couldn't end it, then please don't date again until you heal the part in you that would allow yourself to be treated that way. Because you're going to attract somebody just like that again. I have spirits from the other side come through all the time and talk about their loved ones here and say, this is what you need to work on. Please don't find another partner until you fix that. Because we want you to be clear and fear-free and loving yourself. When you can completely love yourself, you'll attract to yourself someone who loves themselves and is not needy. They don't need you to heal them. Wow, what a great relationship when you have two non-needy people who just love being together. That's the goal. So in the human side, that's how it works. But from the spirit world side, if there's some big wound in you and your soul says, this is something we're going to work on, then you may attract to you actually a dense thought form from the spirit world that may cause that issue to bubble up. So how do you deal with that? You recognize somehow at a subconscious or soul level, I'm attracting this to myself. I'm ready to heal that. I'm ready to be clear. And when you remember this message, right? You call on your spirit guides and say, send more of that love and show me, please. What is it that's attracting this? What is it I need to work on in me? I'm ready. Send me the right healers. Send me the right helpers. Show me what's next. And do this day by day. Your guides will help you, and they'll lead you to the right counselors or healers or whatever. And I would say that if you're working to be a medium, that you not do readings until you feel completely safe and loved. You're always safe, but if you don't feel safe, that's a human construct. And it is the opposite of the energetic field that we want to create and sit in when we're doing this work, so that we know we are the light. You just turn up the light, know who you are, love yourself completely, and send that same love to the spirit world. It sounds easy, and it is once you love yourself. But if you're fear-filled, or you're noticing this kind of energy around you a lot, don't worry. Your soul came to work on this. I actually see these as opportunities and exciting. They're kind of like gifts in a way, because you now know what's causing it, and the feelings of fear, what's attracting it, and you can start to work on it. So I hope that's a whole new way of looking at these things. I have a beautiful new friend who's going to be on my radio show later this year. You'll get to meet her then. Her name is Ingrid Honkala, and she is from South America. That does not sound like a Latin American name, does it? But she has a beautiful Spanish accent. We met at a conference, and when I connected with her, my gosh, we know each other at a soul level. Even when we read each other's emails, I feel this connection that's amazing. And she just sent me an email today, having no idea I was going to talk about this. And I asked her if it was okay if I share what she wrote, because it's so perfect. Listen to this and just feel the energy. Her guides told her, demons are any thought forms and emotions created out of balance. And since they don't know better, they behave in accordance with their unbalanced nature. You don't have to be afraid of the demons, just feed them with love. And since eventually we become what we eat without even knowing, the demons are transformed into diamonds. Isn't that cool? Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. You know, you're met with anger, respond with love, and watch how it just dissolves the situation. It knocks people off balance, you know. It's kind of fun to knock people back into balance with love. And so I had Cindy wrote in the middle of the month with a question I said I would answer it here. She said, as we live a spiritually awakened life, does that mean we become more passive? In other words, how do we spiritually handle events that take a more assertive role? I want to be kind and quiet and non-controversial, but technology, the government, and issues that demand me to speak up and fight for something seem out of kilter with my awakened way. It's a great question. And you know, when Archangel Michael came to me with evidence and showed me beyond a doubt, this is somebody from the archangelic realm, I said to him, I don't know which angel you are. And he said, I stand for freedom and fight for love. So that surprised me that an archangel would use language like that. But what he was showing me is when you're aligned with love, fighting takes on a different meaning, a different feeling. So it's unfortunate that the word fight is a loaded word, but can't we just change it to stand for what your heart tells you is aligned with truth and goodness and beauty and light and love? Then yes, you speak up. But just like we said, you feed the demons with love. So you're not going to get anywhere if you argue. Look at our politicians. They just go like this. And I don't see that ever changing. So if you are somehow able to change your lens and bring heart-centered love into whatever the situation is, that is the greatest tool we have. So we'll use a loaded word and say it's a weapon. A weapon is used to fight. It's a tool to take a stand. Watch the language and change how things come around. Yeah, being spiritual doesn't mean that you become passive. It's interesting that we get to choose our perspective. We can step back, see all sides of an issue, which really changes things. See from the other person's point of view. The wholeness is the love. And you may just see a different way of approaching and taking a stand. Absolutely speak up when your heart says this is the thing to do. So Bev, I'd like you to answer a couple questions and then bring Bill Higley in after that, okay? If he wants to.
Okay. Jan and Bob just asked a good question on this topic. He said they can understand how adults may be sending out vibes to attract negativity, but what about children? How can they be attracting bad people or a spirit to have bad things happen to them?
It's a great question. And that's a really good point. We don't want to say that we are always attracting that, but perhaps it is the vulnerability. And that's when someone who is in a more powerful position takes advantage of that. So that's a different example right there, a different case. Okay. But perhaps at a soul level, let me check on this one here. Oh, what the guides are saying is that at a soul level, a soul may have chosen a point where they could radiate, they could be in a vulnerable position for how whatever takes place would affect multiple people around them. Remember, we're all interconnected. Nothing happens in a vacuum. So perhaps the parents of that child, their souls also have some kind of agreement to work on with whatever unfolds here. So that's apples and oranges, two different things about, the child may not have a wound that's attracting that, but there may be another soul issue. It's getting into some deep stuff that I don't want to, what's the word? Hypothesize. But the underlying thing here is that it all boils down to soul's experiences and how we grow from what happens. Okay. All right.
Lori asked, why do some parts of the world have more tragedy than others? For example, Syria.
I'm checking. I'm absolutely not getting an answer on that one. If I were in a deeper state of meditation and could get Sanaya's answer, I would get an answer. But I learned back in the Navy when I would do briefings, if the Admiral asked me a question and I didn't have an answer, I would say, no answer, sir. And I don't. Okay. So next time I do a channeling session, we'll have to ask that one because I'm curious too. Okay. And again, it's going to go back to a collective agreement of the souls. An entire nation is one microcosm. So that's part of it. All righty.
Another one?
Yeah, one more.
Okay. How are guides assigned? Can we borrow someone else's guide? And that's from Daryl.
Can we borrow someone else's guide? You can always ask. I could tell you that much. You can ask, but remember, our guides have the bird's eye view. They have a bigger picture and they know what's best for us. So you can ask, and if somebody else's guide can help you, they will absolutely do so. For example, Brenda is helping all kinds of people now with their mediumship. She says there's enough, more than enough of me to go around. So in Brenda's case, she's a teacher. She loves helping everybody. She's my mediumship guide, but there's only one of us here. So I can't claim exclusive rights to Brenda. That's just an example. That's a good one. All right. So I've been talking about bringing Bill on. Did he want to come in? Here. Bill was in my Shift Network course that I just finished up, and he sent me an email recently, and it dovetailed beautifully with the major topic that I said we were going to talk about tonight, and that's the new method of connecting directly across the veil. Now, anybody who studied with me in any method of online class, in-person class, even videos, you know that I teach this 7-step method called the Bless Me Method. And it's there's a video of it available free online on our, what's the page, Bev? Gifts, something or other. Gifts on my website. Where's the Bless Me Method? On the videos page?
It's on the meditation page.
Free meditation gifts.
Free meditation page.
Meditations gifts page on my website. 7 steps to connecting with higher consciousness. 20 minutes and you'll learn my process. But it's called the Bless Me Method because you go through these 7 steps of entering a nice expanded state of awareness. And the letters stand for breathe and lift your vibration, expand your awareness, surrender your ego, shift your focus to the higher dimension, merge with the spirit across the veil, and then experience whatever is meant to happen. Now, within each of those 7 steps, there are quite a few things we can be doing. So it's not just boom, 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 boom like that, but just takes a few minutes. Bill got his camera going.
Oh, Bill, your camera's working.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring him on. So hi, Bill.
Hi.
We got Aurora Borealis in the background. I love it. Well, Bill shared with me an analogy on in the shift. It's breathe, lift, expand, surrender, shift. In that stage of the Bless Me process, I teach people what we actually do mentally to shift our awareness to the spirit world. And I use this beautiful analogy of a heart of roses, 3D, popping off a page. I shift to another dimension. But Bill, I was hoping you would share with us what you envision or visualize when you do the shift, because it was really cool.
Well, it was kind of in the lift phase, and in the description of the method, the lifting takes place with gratitude or with focusing on someone you love. Or I saw recently something from the Sanaya that said, yes, humor can do it, which is wonderful, but it lifts you up. But it just occurred to me that I could swing up there. I could swoop up there. And the image that came to me was the way acrobats, aerial acrobats, mount those little platforms that are way up in the air. They start swinging and they grab a swing and they swoop up into the air, and it's almost like their feet go up almost ahead of them, and they swing up and land on the little platform. And so what I started visualizing was grabbing that trapeze bar, swinging up there, landing on the platform, and there are my guides right there on the platform. And there we are, right there. And we're looking out over the universe.
I love that.
Platform.
And you use it in the lifting phase to raise your vibe, but I feel that it would also work beautifully when you go shift. You said that you didn't you say
parasailing?
Parasailing, yeah. Talk about that feeling.
Well, I've parasailed a couple different methods. One is you are winched off a fantail of a boat. So you're out on the boat and they inflate the chute and it pulls you up, but you're on the boat and you're moving. That's very different from being yanked off the shore. And so the other method is you're standing on the shore and there's a boat about 500 or 600 feet offshore bobbing up and down the waves, and they can't see you very well. And they put this parachute on you and they inflate the chute, and then they wave at the boat and the boat takes off. The boat just goes and it yanks you forward, and you get about 2 steps and you are whooshed 500 feet up in the air. It is just whoosh method. It's a zing, it's a whoosh like that, and up you go, you know? And so that's kind of, so, you know, Florence Scovel Shinn writes about swinging into your spirit in her little book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it's a swinging into. Yeah. And so I like that. I like that swinging. You know, Duke Ellington said, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
I love that. And when Brenda first passed, she came through to me and was showing me parasailing, that exact feeling and going with the flow. So once you've made that swoop up into the air, now just let spirit guide you and you're floating on the currents and depending on the current, right? Mm-hmm. And so
that's right.
Even though you said you use it during the lift phase, when we go, I surrender my human side and shift, that's when I would literally feel that beautiful lift that you're talking about. And I love that you now know, now I'm at the level of my guides. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you so much.
Very cool. And that is really all it takes to make the shift with those across the veil, your own loved ones or others, is moving your awareness there. You're taking your awareness off of this human reality, and now it's in the spirit world. Because as Brenda said, and she's standing right here, there is only here. What does she mean by that? All there is consciousness projecting this whole reality. The one mind is projecting this reality, and we're the little actors running around in this reality. We're going to talk about so much more of this next month. I didn't even have time for it. Next month's up halfway planned out already by the spirit world. But if there's only consciousness, even if there are different levels of it, the human reality and the spirit world, it's all one world in consciousness. This room exists in consciousness. Your room exists in consciousness. Let's put that another way. This room exists in Joy's mind. Your room exists in Joy's mind. Brenda's reality in the spirit world exists in Joy's mind. And so because I and Brenda and you are extensions of Joy's mind, whatever is meant to play out will play out. And if we simply become aware, our true nature is awareness, we might notice when someone is here. I suddenly notice that Brenda's here in awareness. There's only here. hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, trust me, I'm planting seeds, and someday it will make perfect sense to you. But I am always looking for new ways and better ways to connect. So that's the old way, but I want to share with you that I want to share an even easier way. Let me first tell you though, speaking of Brenda, last week, after this new teaching that I'm about to share with you came through, I sat down over here to do a reading for someone. And I went to pick up this clipboard, which I always have in my lap when I do a reading. I put my sitter's first name at the top and the date, so I can remember to look down and say, hello, Susan. And for the recording's sake, it's May 12, 2020. And then throughout the reading, I would note any big wows that came through or any names that I got, because that was important to me, you know? And I sat to do the reading, and Brenda, my mediumship guide now, says, don't you dare pick up that clipboard. And I was like, what? And she didn't need to say another word. I suddenly understood. I don't have a clipboard in my lap when I channel. I so trust Sanaya. I know Sanaya is here when I sit to channel, and they're going to come through, and I'm going to be in such a flowing state. I'm not going to take notes about what they say in a channeling session. That's different from the morning message. I have to write that down so I can share it with everybody. But she was saying, get in that same flow state, that same trusting state. Don't put that clipboard in your lap. I was so excited to do a reading without the clipboard. I sat down, I felt a little naked without this clipboard in my lap, but I felt free. And that's the goal. We want to be free. And that clipboard was keeping me very human. So that's just one little hint. Some of you may not even take notes or have a paper in your lap when you do readings, but at least this may trigger in you how you're constantly listening. Am I right or wrong? Do I want to remember this or that? It's not necessary. So now let me move on to the teaching she gave that led me to being more free. By the way, I tried this whole new method of no writing notes. Let's just practically channel the spirits. I tried it with Lynette. I said, Lynette, my other assistant, I said, do you mind if I do a reading for you and see if I can just plain channel your loved ones? Well, you know, anybody offered me a reading too, I'd say, do I mind? You know, she didn't mind. And it was an incredibly cool experience. I just got out of the way. And as I felt her father step in, she's given me permission to share this. I just did what we do in the Bless Me method, merged with him, but allowed myself to speak in first person. And he just took me to a situation and a scene, and he was speaking to Lynette and sharing memories, and the evidence was right there in the memories he was sharing and his personality, and it actually stunned me how it worked. So we're going to be teaching a lot more about that in November with the next course, but it was very cool. So this new way of connecting, I'm going to be teaching a lot more about this in the new course too, but this is what my guide said. Don't wait for the course. Teach everything as it comes to you, because everything is meant to be shared. And that's what I love. That's what I love. So in the Bless Me method, as you just heard, I tell people that your daily meditative process, whether you want to be a medium or connect with your own loved ones, hopefully you're regularly sitting in the silence, shutting out the outside world and connecting with guides or spirit, or just simply training your mind to be still and raising your vibration. That is a daily practice we call building the power. In that daily practice, we do the deep breathing to relax and to clear our energy field. That's the B. We do the L, lift our vibration with some of the methods Bill shared with you there. We can practice humor. We practice gratitude for sure. What are we grateful for? We visualize loving things and loving thoughts to raise our vibration. And so breathing and lifting the vibration is part of the everyday practice that we do before a reading. But then when I sit to do a reading, I go through my own process, and I've taught this over and over. Expand your awareness, surrender the ego, and now shift. And then once I've shifted my focus to the spirit world, like Bill getting in his paragliding kit there, now I say to the spirits, come now and merge with me. So any of you who've had a reading with me, you've seen me go, I surrender, shift, come now. I literally say these things. And Brenda, my teacher, said, time to take off the training wheels after 10 years. It's not that there's anything wrong with that method. In fact, it's, for many people, it's wonderful because many teachers just say, like I'm going to say tonight, you just shift, which you can. But if you don't know what that entails, the Bless Me method breaks it down. So what I was shown was, now do it without saying the words at all. The spirit world doesn't speak with words. Saying, I surrender, shift, come now is not necessary. Now, you can keep doing it or not, but the point is, just like Brenda is right here every time, and I know she shows up for every reading, and I know she shows up for every class and every mentoring session, I know that my sitter spirits are going to show up. They wouldn't miss it for the world. So knowing that, why go through that process once we know how to make a connection? I was shown some beautiful visuals, however, if you want to at least have something to rely on for that shift. I was shown the journey of consciousness meditation that I led you through, if not, I think it was last month. That's also on my free meditation gifts page, a video and a meditation, the journey of consciousness. Many of you have done it with me. I've done it 3 or 4 times now, where we start off on the surface of the ocean, the sea of love. And we come off our raft and sink below the tumultuous surface and sink past all of our memories and our story, sink down to the stillness at the bottom of the ocean. This is analogous with who we are. We've left the story of me behind and become the pure oneness. So the visual is to sink into the heart, the stillness at the center, the bottom of the ocean. So we just sink down without words. And now, because the spirit world needs our love, we send our soul energy, our consciousness, our awareness, our true nature out to what could be envisioned as a tidal pool, where we will meet with the energy of the spirits. And our energy will meet them there. And our sitter's energy is there. In every reading, there's a field of light beings, energetic forms, patterns. I'm an energetic form and pattern as a soul. My sitter is an energetic form and pattern as a soul, as are those in the spirit world. We're all souls here and now, and there is only here and now. So if we envision that field that has gathered for the purpose of a reading as a little tidal pool in this ocean, I sink to the bottom to just get away from the Suzanne story and my normal life up here on the surface. And now I just merge with the collective field of everybody involved in this reading, that tidal pool, that field of energy. So how it would go without words is, I would say to my sitter, give me a moment, we'll see how this flows. Here we go. And here we go is an intention that I set well in advance. The spirits know that means merge with me now. It's in the intention. So here we go. And I just take a breath and the spirits are right here. Did you see me sink and flow out with love? And because I know they're here, they're in my awareness. But what just happened there? By sinking, I surrender. By going out, I shift. By looking for them, I've merged. So it's the same process. It's the bless me process. You did the breathing and the lifting beforehand to build your energy. You've surrendered and shifted and merged, but without words. So it's taking the training wheels off, but you're still riding the bicycle. Does this make sense to you? So it's just easier, and it shows you subconsciously these spirits are here. When I have drop-ins at dinner parties, when I'm with people and their loved ones come near, when you may sense a loved one draw near, even if you're not a medium, you know something's different. How do you connect with them? You simply acknowledge, I know you're here, and shift your focus to them. Just, did you see me do that little lift? That's like Bill jumping in, you know, getting in the trapeze, going up there. Whoosh, here they are. When I suddenly become aware of Brenda right before I start the mentoring, all it is a shift in focus, and she's talking about trains, and I know it's something to do with Lynette. So use the Bless Me method with words, but to connect directly, no words are necessary. If you want a visual, sink down to the stillness. That's getting away from your story, and then send your love out to envelop the collective field of that reading. That's all the souls involved. You, the sitter or sitters, could be 2 or more, and all of their loved ones. You form one energy field. Whoosh. Any questions about that? If you have them, you can type them in the chat right now, and Bev will answer, because there's still a little bit more I want to cover about them. I do want, while anybody might be typing a question, I do want to stress that drop-ins, for me, if I don't know the person across the veil like I know Brenda, are not as deep and strong a connection as when I do a reading. Understanding that for a reading, those spirits are there gathered. We have a shared intention, which intensifies the energy in the field. The sitter's energy is all important as well. So that connection is much stronger. If there's a drop-in, there's just a sense that somebody's here, and we shift the awareness, but you may not get the depth of evidence and flow as in a reading that was set up. Any questions, Bev?
Jan asked, does this take much practice, or is it spontaneous?
It worked immediately for me, but I'm still doing it. What it's taking is undoing the conditioning. So just like taking training wheels off a bike, you might be riding right away, but you might be a little unsteady for about a week or so. So just play with it and go back to the Bless Me method if you need it, if it works for you. There's no need, this doesn't mean you're more advanced, it's just more freeing, right? And that's what Brenda showed me. It's all about being free of words. And we'll move on with that in a little bit, but if there are any more questions, go ahead, Bev.
Safina asks, when you radiate your love in the ocean, do you envision being then on the surface to meet the spirits?
Isn't that funny? Yeah, how we like these visuals. I would say we meet them somewhere in the middle. To me, the surface represents the physical world. But remembering the ocean is joy. It's the sea of love. It's the sea of all consciousness, the super consciousness where all minds are one. Joy is the ocean and is running this whole thing. So just be the ocean ultimately, and it doesn't matter where you go, there's only the ocean. Okay, that's what's important to know. You don't even have to know where you're going. That's so important. So I'm glad you asked this question. You just go out and let joy take you where you need to go, which is right here in consciousness. It's only here, the whole ocean.
Okay. Chris asks, or says, I like the idea of sinking down below the surface of the ocean, but as a baby medium, I still need the training wheels of the Bless Me method. Can these be combined?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Combine them. You bet. And there's listen to me. I've been using the Bless Me method for 10 years and it works beautifully. And I could use it for another 10 years. But for some reason, Spirit wanted me to show you all alternate ways. And so play with it. For everybody who I've taught who's loved the method, why get rid of it? It works. So keep using it if you want it. But you can see how even with this just sinking and going out, it actually saves time. I don't have to say, I surrender, shift, merge. I just go, let's see how this goes. Here we go. And you just become aware because you trust they're here and you start noticing. Okay.
Last question from Teresa. Will you be doing a new HemiSync CD with the new method?
Oh, I love this question. Wow. Wow. What a great idea. Where's my clipboard? We'll make a note. We'll ask Sanaya. But I do want to tell you that this week I am recording an online course with the HemiSync company that knits together the 4 CDs in the Making the Connection Mediumship series. And so it's wording and teaching that guides you through all of the exercises together. And so you will see me in this exact outfit, in this exact setting, and poor Ty will see me in this outfit all week because they want me in the same clothes for the whole thing. But that's fun, the HemiSync thing. I just love that it's going to be like a nice add-on tool to mediumship classes. So always good tools. All right. So let me see. After, I told you there's another level to this. So we took off the training wheels. I tried this for a week, and you notice how I had to come up with words to say to my sitter, what's the trigger to let the spirits know we're ready to go? And for me, it was, here we go. And so after about a week, and it worked great, Brenda drops in, pushing me some more, and she says, visuals are an extra step. She said, I'm right here. Do you sink down and go out to meet me here? No, she shows up for class. I just look for her. It's like, there's a door right here. You can't see it. But it's like, I know Brenda's on the other side of the door and I can't see her. So you just open the door and there she is. So she's just showing us that you can actually get to the point, and this is what people who've seen spirits their whole lives, the people known as born mediums, this is when they say, well, you just flip a switch. This is what they do. And for those of us who haven't been doing this our whole lives, the training wheels are outstanding. Why not leave them on? The taking them off and now visualizing that are an excellent tool. But ultimately, I just want you to understand that when I tune into Brenda every morning or before a reading, I realize I don't sink down and go out. I just go like this. And I look for her in my awareness. Do I notice her? And she knows that I'm looking for her because she's in my thoughts. She reads my mind and she answers. So if you're trying to connect with people you don't know, if you've set up a reading with someone, well, we know their loved ones are going to show up. Somebody's going to show up. So when you say, here we go, just look for them. And they're right there. It's one of those, well, it is that simple. But we can break it down into these steps for those of us who want to use that. When you step onto a platform to do a demonstration of mediumship before a crowd, even I didn't even realize earlier that I do this myself when I do demonstrations. I don't stand up on the platform and go, let me sink, let me go out. I don't go surrender, shift, come now. I just look for who's there because you have an entire audience. You know there are dozens of spirits around. So you just listen who's going to come in first. And it's the same thing. When you want to connect with loved ones across the veil, You've set the stage by just expanding your awareness. Great, use the Bless Me method ahead of time to expand and build the power. But when it's time to go, here we go. Just look, who's here? That's called flipping the switch. Okay? Any more questions?
Helen asked a question, can more than one spirit come to you? And if so, how do you separate them?
In almost every reading, you get more than one spirit, because the family ones, I call them my family reunions. You know, sometimes they'll show me a tent and I know it, oh, this is one of those family reunion readings. Sometimes if someone has a child across the veil, the rest of the family stands back because they want the parent to get that whole reading with the child, but they're usually there. So the way you separate them is you tell your guides, have them come in one at a time. You do this in advance, one at a time. You set up a system so you can identify the relationship, and then you feel into their personality. And just like you know what your mom feels like, you know what your dad feels like, you know what your brother feels like, they're all different. In a reading, people are going to come through feeling quite different. If two people are very much the same, perhaps we have a mother and a grandmother that you sense standing over here, and they're very much alike. All you have to do is silently say, step apart so I can feel you individually. And then they'll give you specific information about themselves that you can say, this is your mother, blah, blah, blah. Now let's see. And if grandmother has something to say, then she'll push her way in. So it's really wonderful. Remember, we're working with intelligence and creativity. It's all joy and expression. They want to be heard. We want the best for our sitter. They'll cooperate with you. Let's see, I'm being told I need to talk about, for those of you who don't want to be mediums and you want to connect with your own loved ones, know that almost all the time when you think about them, they feel that, and if it is meant to be and serves the greater good, they will drop into your awareness. So look for them. And it's so subtle sometimes. Trust me, it's not like they literal, of course it's not the same as standing there in physical form. And it's not always the same clarity as a phone call. You may not feel the physical presence, but there may be just a sense. Go with that and start a conversation, and then get past the I'm making this up stage. But just look for them, trust that they're here, and go with it. Anything else, Ben?
No, not directly related.
Okay, all right. So it's funny. I have this little bowl of stones over there by my chair that somebody sent me. They make these beautiful glass stones and put words on each one. And every once in a while, Sanaya will say, grab a stone. And just the other day when I was trying this new method, see, that's what I mean. It's this new. The teaching every month is the good new stuff. They said, pull up a stone. And the stone says, show up. And that's it. That's all we have to do. You are the ocean itself. You are joy in expression. Show up as joy in expression, knowing you're doing this to bring joy to others, to expand your awareness of this, we're all connected. Just show up. By showing up and saying, I'm willing to play with this, to step outside my comfort zone. I'm willing to try something new, to move beyond my belief system. That's when the magic happens. So a perfect stone. And you want to hear magic? So today I'm tidying. I put this on Facebook. I'm just getting these notes in order so it makes sense, right? And just as I'm writing, this is the latest teaching from Brenda on my notes. What comes on Pandora in our speakers at home? But the very song played at Brenda's memorial service in a video tribute to her. It has never played in our home before. And the words were so beautiful. The words, part of them, beloved child, go out, spread light to the world. That's what we're doing right here, right now. Those are the lyrics. I quickly typed this up to Lynette because the Brenda thing is always so amazing. And Lynette wrote back, she's just showing off now. I just love it. I love this life. I hope you guys do too. It's not always easy, but when we start to realize who we are and connect with that regularly, magical moments like that happen all the time. And when we practice new things all the time and connect more and more, then it just grows. All right. Whew. Let's see. There's a question that's a little bit heavy, so I'm going to save that one for later because I'm feeling, this is how I'm feeling right now. Yay, my pillow. I'm not going to bring this out too much more often, just a reminder. All right. So I don't know if you saw my latest video on YouTube about the soul. So many people ask, what if my loved one reincarnates before I get back here? So we're about to move into this discussion of the higher self that I promised you all in the email I sent out about tonight. So it's really important to understand who we are as souls. And that video explained that we are emanations of our soul. We're not the entirety of our soul. I was shown in an analogy I haven't yet shared. Think of a light bulb with the filaments inside the light bulb, little strands. That's your life in this life right now. That's you, this filament from the light of your soul that lights up. So many analogies. In that video, I showed that the soul chooses certain things it wants to work on in a lifetime. Like a deck of cards, the soul chooses a hand, and you get to play that hand of certain issues. In my case, definitely I was dealt the patience card I need to work on, right? And the not being too hard on myself card. I could name a few others. What do you think the cards your soul is working on are, right? So we have this certain hand that we play, and when we go back, that hand gets merged back into the deck of cards that is our entire soul. So the question I answered in that video is, you know, what if my loved one reincarnates? It doesn't matter if another filament within the light gets dealt a deck, a hand, and goes off to experience and learn. The hand you were dealt in this life exists for eternity in its completeness as an aspect of the soul. So the soul can put on your face to meet you when you cross the veil, regardless of how many other incarnations it's playing out at any one time. Another teacher shared, picture the soul like a beautiful flower, and each of its incarnations is like a petal on the flower, right? Many, many incarnations, all adding to the beauty of the flower. And as all of these issues and challenges we agree to take on, joyful experiences in each incarnation are fulfilled. We bring that back to the soul, and ultimately the soul experiences wholeness, which is our true nature at a higher level. We can't be separated from wholeness. We are the whole ocean, just different waves. I mix metaphors all the time, so bear with me as I do that right there. So understanding that we are emanations of a soul, you and I in physical form. If you go back to September's mentoring session, we talked about how our soul chooses a body with which to merge, to take on for this incarnation. We're really going to dive into this in the June mentoring session. So just briefly, we are blended beings, what I taught in September, of a soul and a human body, a human being that has its own consciousness, but at a more limited level than the soul level. So the soul and the human body merge together, and that's where the challenges really arise, because our human nature has certain aspects that definitely let us learn our lessons from interacting with it. So what I said we were going to talk about tonight, though, is What is the higher self? We talk about this term a lot. I've been reading about it, talking to the higher self for decades. Long before I was a medium, I heard about people, well, ask your higher self, you know? And so I wanted to talk about what is the higher self, what is the soul? We talked about that, and what's the difference between soul and spirit. Now, this is Suzanne's take on it. Remember, we got 7 billion lenses. I tried my best to sync back inward from the lens to the soul level to the guide level to get the teaching from the highest possible level, but it still has to go through the filter of the human body. So if you have a different take on this, just follow your heart, all right? But my huge aha that I had that I wanted to share with you, thanks to spirit, to joy, was I'd been confused about the difference between higher self and soul. I'd always thought that the higher self was something apart from us, higher meaning higher than the human experience. So really, being blended beings, the higher self is multidimensional. Within the blended being of soul and human being that you with a name see yourself as here and now, the higher self would be that aspect of the soul, of you as a soul that incarnated with a body. So that's the voice you hear that is the positive, intuitive, loving thoughts in your head. Sometimes the human nature doesn't have the most loving thoughts, right? So your own higher self is right here as part of your daily experience, as part of your waking consciousness experience. Your higher self is that accessible to you without shifting awareness at all. As a soul, that is a higher self of you. So the soul is also the higher self. Picture an iceberg. You have the human being would be above the surface of the ocean, and then the soul is so much more than just this one incarnation, and yet the soul is fully embedded and merged with the human being. So the higher self is that part of the soul that's part of your body, but it's also the soul itself. I hope this is making sense to you. And then, of course, we can go higher still, and there's joy. We are ultimately all descended from joy. Go back to the lightning bolt image. We have one light that bifurcates, forks down into all of its expressions. That is the ultimate higher self, isn't it? So when people say, ask your higher self, you could be asking the closest to you higher self that's always here in your waking awareness. You could be going to your soul. You could be going to joy itself. Remember, it's all joy. It's all source. One divine mind fracturing itself into many expressions. The thing is, when you want to ask for guidance, just ask for something higher than the ego self. Aim for the highest possible guidance, the highest possible self with a capital S that has the best answer for your highest good, and that's a win. All right? I have in one of my workshops, I don't think it's on video yet, a photo that I took sitting in a gym once. I was sitting on one of those bicep curl machines, and I looked in the mirror across from me, and there was a mirror behind me, and I saw my image sitting there, and behind that was another image of me, and another image of me, and another image of me. And my guide said, take this picture. It's a teaching point. And the teaching point is the closest one to us, the one that looks most solid, that's the human incarnation. Behind that, you could see that as the soul. Behind that is a higher dimensional part of you. And beyond that is perhaps source. We get to choose the point of view once we realize we're not limited to this body. This is what we learn in meditation. We have the personal experience of ourself as more than this physical body. So what point of view serves you best in this moment. That's why I tried to model when you all ask questions, I shift, because Suzanne doesn't have the answers. And we go higher and higher and higher. And it's just encircling more of the figures in that photo, more of the fullness of our true nature, of our being. You are all of that as joy in expression. Just remember, it's nested fields of CIA, creativity, intelligence, and awareness. This is our true nature. So what is spirit? We're now getting into words and just trying to put words to something that really doesn't have words, but we're human while we're here, so we need words. Spirit is all of it. Spirit is the formless, the flow itself. It's pure being. That's spirit. That's joy. It's another name for joy. It's the all-pervasive awareness and being that we are. Soul is an emanation of spirit. You are a more limited expression of spirit that emanates from a soul. Okay. Whew, let's see if I covered that before I get any questions. So the key is your higher self is not really up there, but for the purpose of teaching and a model, yeah, we can envision it that way. It's really just higher and higher, freer and freer levels of our own being. We call it a higher self as opposed to the lower self that's very earthly. What would that be like? The part of us that judges other, that feels anger, the ego nature of the less loving side, the me against you, us against them nature. That's the human side. That would be the lower self. The one that does things that you read about in the headlines. That would be the lower self. But I don't even like using terminology like that. Just realize it's all spirit in expression, okay? The goal of any spiritual practice is to so completely integrate all of the selves that you come to know how limitless we really are. So Bev, have any questions popped up we can answer about that?
Yeah, I think it's a tough thing to wrap our heads around, and so let me read the comments and questions. Martha says, so the positive messages are spirit and the higher self, and negative messages are human and negative?
It's all spirit, but when we get into a body, we become blinded to who we truly are. And the negative thoughts arise from the blinded, limited human nature and the stories. When we focus on the stories, that's an outward object focus instead of focusing on what's always already here, our soul. So it's all spirit, but think of, I was going to share more of this next month. If you're stuck in a room, if I'm in a room and a whole bunch of people are smoking cigars in here, this air is going to get a little toxic, right? So that would be the conditioned air in here. I need to bring in fresh air. That would be the higher spirit. But so any thoughts that just run round and round in my energy field over and over without getting fresh, original, creative, intelligent thoughts from my higher self blending with them are going to come across as toxic, negative, lower thoughts. But it's still all spirit. It's just been conditioned. Okay?
Right. And Helen asked, so how does Jesus and saints and angels play into the source?
Oh, beautiful. Think of that lightning bolt, and they are way up here. They know we're all joy and expression. They've just decided that rather than merging completely back into the ocean, they're going to help to have that flow of love flow down to us. There are great helpers and teachers knowing fully they are the light, always responding with love, having no lower nature whatsoever. They're pure light beings that help us, but they, just like us, are every bit as much the light joy. Yeah.
There's two comments that really fit well together. Rebecca says, but higher and lower sets up a hierarchy that feels like we're judging one as better than another. But Charles says it's really levels of frequency. Is that true?
That was two questions. Let's change lower to conditioned human side. Conditioned. Limited. Okay? And higher is simply more aligned with love. Okay? It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. And on a spectrum, which is all love, you're going to have something, though, on a spectrum that's farther from the purest essence. Okay? So yeah, definitely try to stay away from judging and just always aim for the most integrated, highest state. What was the second part of that, Beth?
Charles commented that it's really sort of a higher frequency, not a location, but a frequency.
Yeah, it definitely is a higher frequency. And that's why when we want to connect with loved ones, the more we can be in alignment with our true nature, which is wholeness. Love is lack of separation. When we feel connected with each other, like I hope you feel connected tonight, this is why I felt the love building. It's that connection. We come with the shared intention of feeling and enjoying this connection. That's love. So a lower vibration would be the opposite of that. So that's, you know, we have to have words, we call it negative or lower. So the opposite, out of alignment with our true nature. So is it a higher frequency? It is, but it's interesting when you study sine waves, low frequency waves, higher frequency waves become so close together that they look like it's oneness. And that's why we go for higher frequency. Lower frequency, I don't want to get into science. Let's not confuse it here. Anyway, that's a topic for another time. But just remember that our goal is to align with true nature, which is connection, love. Yeah.
Grace asked, what was the A in CIA? It's creativity, intelligence,
and awareness.
Awareness.
Our true nature, the two words that all of us share in common, I am. That's our true nature. The I am means I exist and I am aware of that. Being and knowing are our true nature. I know that I exist. Before any story, before any name, as a newborn baby, you knew you exist and you didn't need words to express that. You just knew it. That is the innate awareness that is always present. That's what we sink down into when we're about to connect with spirit. Pure being, pure awareness. And as we just become aware who's present, here are our guides. Here are our loved ones who have passed. Here are others' loved ones. Here's Brenda saying, good stuff. I hope you're eating this up. So those of you who are familiar with the namaste pose and phrase, it's a great thing to say when you can't shake hands or hug, right? Or do. That's called the gasho, G-A-S-H-O, this. But namaste phrase I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you, which is of love, of peace, of truth, and of light. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. That is the meaning of namaste. All of that in one word, all of that in one gesture, all of that means that's what we share. That place, that state of being and knowing we are one beneath the story, beneath the waves. That's the spiritual path. Getting to the place where we see that in each other, even when the other doesn't see it, we meet them in that place. And that's how you can send love to one who's angry at you. And when you know what that feels like, when you're ready to connect with loved ones across the veil, you go to that place. That's the higher self. That's the higher self within the blended being. That's you in a body with a name. That's the higher self that's you as the soul. That's the higher self that is joy. Namaste. Yeah. Enough said about that. Good stuff. So let's see. If you feel anxiety, tension, fear, all of this is so prevalent right now with the coronavirus things going on. That is the human nature. I'm trying to find different words to say that's not the negative side, that's not the lower self, but you know what I'm getting at. Words limit us. That's the self that's farther from our true nature is what it is. So we just move ourselves up the spectrum of love, right? We recognize that is part of our human nature. Accept it. It comes with the body. More on that next month. But for now, recognize it and shift to your higher self. It's right here, right now. All righty. I also said, let's see. Let's make a break here before I switch to a new topic with 20 minutes ago. Let me just answer one or two questions, Bev. Anything else on anything?
Okay. We have a slew of questions, over 75, so we won't get to all of them, and they're great questions.
But you have them saved, right, Bev?
Pardon me?
You have them saved?
Yes.
Yeah, because every once in a while, I'll just do a free session, just Q&As, and we may very well do that this month before I get on the road. We're heading out for 4 months again. I may just put out the word to all of you who signed up, and we'll just do a Q&A session. Okay, so watch.
Great questions. Lots of discussion and questions.
So just give me one or two, Beth.
Okay. When messages come to you outside of your sessions, for example, while shopping or doing a business meeting, what do? Do you deliver with the recipient's permission? Should spirit messages be only one-on-one? What's the etiquette of delivering messages in a situation like that?
Well, I sure wouldn't do it in a business meeting, that's for sure. And I just have to believe that if a spirit comes through unasked for, there's a reason. They have something to say. But also, I was going to say, I personally feel, but my guides are saying, and you are well-founded in feeling this way, that it's very important to look for evidence before you deliver a message so that you can give to the person, look, I know this is your mother, and I know it's your mother because she gave me this verifiable piece of evidence. But the etiquette is to find a way to put into non-off-putting language. You know, I'm not sure what your belief system is, but in my experience, I'm able to sometimes get messages from people who have passed. I do sense a message for you. Are you okay with me sharing that with you? That's really a good way to do it right there. Okay. And if they're not, okay, the loved one tried, and you just say, I did my best, and you leave it at that. If they are okay with it, you share it with them. Always keeping in mind the maxim, do no harm. So if it's scary or frightening, but it's very important, find a way to make it not scary, but still be truthful. Okay. All right. Bev, I better move on here. So just remind me, we talked about doing a special Q&A session at some point. Okay. All righty. Let's see. I did say tonight we would learn a new way of looking at eternity. This is a short and sweet little lesson, but it's really cool. Remember, as we talked earlier, there are always at least two ways of looking at everything. And usually the two major ways are from our human being point of view, our blended being point of view, and from the spirit's point of view. We make a little analogy here of looking up and looking down from the bird's eye view. So from the human point of view, eternal means going on and on and on. And that's because in our human world, we experience time and space. We have past, present, and future. So if we say, you're going to live forever, somebody who's had a very challenging life would say, that doesn't sound real good to me. Even if it's the afterlife, that sounds boring. It's forever and ever and ever. Why do I want to live for eternity? My dad used to say that. He didn't believe in the afterlife at all. He said, Susie, I've had a really good life and I'm happy with that. This is enough. 92 years is long enough, he said to me. So it's also funny because depending on what your situation is, eternity can be a good thing or bad thing. This COVID thing seems to be lasting an eternity. But if you're in love, time goes like that and eternity is nothing, right? So let's shift then. And from the spirit's point of view, remember the spirit, the soul exists outside of time and space, which is why your loved ones across the veil will tell you, it only seems like an instant since I saw you in physical form. I'm with you always, but there's no time. Things simply happen and arise according to their thoughts, our thoughts as soul. In the video, I explained that many of our lives are happening simultaneously because for the soul, there really is no time. So from the spirit world's point of view, there is only now, this moment unfolding. So from the soul's point of view, eternity means now. There's only now. So it's just a constant arising of joy. And that's why I said, even in our human experience, we may be experiencing challenges, but there's another whole dimension. The challenges are the waves on the surface of the ocean. The underlying stillness is part of the wholeness of the whole ocean. Joy arises from that. Everything in experience is a constant unfolding of experience in the one divine mind. So the new way of looking at eternity is it's just one now moment after another. It's just some food for thought on this. So it's fresh and it's not tiring and we don't know what's going to happen, and it brings back more of the wondering, knowing that we're going to have a fresh new moment and a fresh unfolding, and who knows what's going to happen. And I wonder what beautiful thing could follow on the tail of this and what silver lining could arise after that. So what never changes, though, is the wholeness of our true nature, the peace that is always here. Okay, so there's only now, just like Brenda said, there's only here, because it's all projections of consciousness. This room exists in consciousness. You and I exist in awareness because I am pure awareness. And there is only now in awareness. This experience now, there is only awareness experiencing its own awareness. Ooh, think on that and dream about that tonight and see what happens with that. If you don't understand this, sit in meditation daily and say, help me understand. It leads to incredible insights. Okay. Whew. So just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I interviewed on my radio show recently Dr. Dean Radin, a scientist who has been studying consciousness for quite a long time. And I read his book, Real Magic. And he was talking about what happens when we understand that we are consciousness. And we're all familiar with Einstein's wonderful theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, in which he showed energy equals matter, matter equals energy. In other words, what seems to be solid is really energy, consciousness, spirit, right? Well, Dean Radin, Dr. Radin, had an equation of his own that I just said, I love that. He had a little c, the equal sign, and a big C, meaning personal consciousness is the same as the big C, joy's consciousness. The little mind, M equals big M, derives from, is equal to the big mind. There's only consciousness. This is the thing that is hard for us to get through our human mind. But once we understand that we are all connected by awareness itself, by creativity, intelligence, and awareness, this sea of love is, we're not just swimming in it, we are the water itself of the ocean, okay? So, little c, your personal consciousness is also at a higher level, the one with a capital C. I just love that equation. And Joy said to me last week, and I wrote this one down, drop the I that you always say, I am this, I am that. Drop the I and problem solved of not understanding your true nature. We think I is a separate being. I, Suzanne, I, Bev, I, Bill, I, all of you. We use that word I, and it keeps us fixed on the stale air in this room we call a body. So what if you saw it as little I equals I, and the one true oneness, the one being, awareness, knowing itself, is the only real I am that is. So stop saying I, and you really get to know oneness. I now live about less than an hour from Marine Corps boot camp at Paris Island. And you know what the first thing they do over there to those poor recruits is? They no longer let them say I. They have to refer to themselves as this recruit, so that they become part of a team, so that they see themselves as one with the rest of their fellow recruits. And now I understand when I first started channeling Sanaya, why they never let me use my own name when they would speak through me. You know what they called me? This one. This little one aspect of the one mind with a capital O. So maybe this week you can walk around and drop the I and see how that changes things for you. It's an interesting experiment. I'm going to hold another Holy You retreat at Unity Village next June, a year from this June. And we're going to spend a lot of time working on dropping the language that limits us and have some really cool personal experiences with that. But you can do it on your own long before then. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. Here's a quote from my Conversations with Joy to end up with. You can choose to see human to human, or soul to human, or soul to soul, or joy to human, or joy to soul, or joy to joy. Any number of combinations of points of view, and all of them are mine, me, us. Be joy us. Because that's who we are. Joy in expression. I love all of you so much because I see your souls. And I love that we come together to share like this. You lift my soul. Thank you for your energy tonight. Maybe you'll join me Saturday. I'm giving a talk for the IANS group. It's on my events calendar. Top thing on the calendar. Just going to be sharing some new insights. They've asked me to do that for an hour live on Saturday. Maybe I'll see you next month. I will send out an announcement. Hopefully I can work out a little Zoom meeting to answer maybe 50 of those 75 questions that we didn't get to. And other than that, be well, love yourself to pieces. And I have to show you my pillow one more time. It's true. You are so loved. How could it be any other way? So we'll see you all next month, maybe. And thank you to Bev for everything. And good night.